Hello, world. It's May 7th, and we are officially back in your ears. No good mornings today. Just a reminder that you've made it to another 24 hours of possibility. Before we dive into the deep end, let's start with a simple thought. Stop trying to be the person you think everyone else wants to meet. Just be you. It's the only job you're actually qualified for. And frankly, the world is much more interesting when people stop acting. To set the mood for a day of being unapologetically yourself, let's lean into a classic that knows a thing or two about keeping the rhythm going. Welcome back. You ever have those moments where you feel like you're just a collection of habits walking around in a suit? We spend so much time on autopilot, reacting to pings, emails, and expectations that we forget we're actually the pilots. Today's episode is about the why behind the what. It's about the gears turning under the surface. We're going to look at some ancient wisdom, some modern struggles, and a few hard truths that might just shake the dust off your perspective. Consider this your mental espresso shot. No need to map out where we're going. Just stay with us. The scenery is about to get very interesting. We live in an era of new tech, new trends, new hacks. But here's a secret. The human heart hasn't had a hardware update in thousands of years. We still feel the same sting of rejection and the same rush of joy as the people did in 500 BC. That's why ancient wisdom matters. These aren't just dusty quotes. They are battle-tested strategies for being human. If a thought has survived 24 empires and the invention of the internet, it's probably worth your time. Take Confucius, for example. He wasn't looking at the stars. He was looking at how we treat each other in the street. Let's take a second to look at the foundation of his philosophy.
We know very little for certain about the life of the Chinese philosopher Confucius. He's said to have been born in 551 BC in China. He may have been a student of the Taoist master Lao Tzu. According to tradition, he began government service and served many roles, including Minister of Crime under Duke Ding in the state of Lu. However, Confucius and the Duke fell out after the Duke received a present from a neighbouring ruler, 80 beautiful women and 124 horses. The Duke spent all his time riding horses and being entertained by the women, which Confucius found deeply improper for a ruler. So he left the court and wandered for years. Around between the 3rd and 5th century BC, Confucius's works were collected into the Analects, a collection of sayings written down by his followers. Some of the morals Confucius taught are easily recognizable, most notably his version of the Golden Rule. Do not do unto others what you don't want done to yourself. But some of them also sound very strange or old-fashioned to modern ears, especially to Western ones. But we need his advice all the more for this. It serves as an antidote to the troubles we currently face. Here are a few examples of what Confucius helps us to remember. 1. Ceremony is important. The Analects are filled with strange conversations between Confucius and his disciples, like this one. Tse Kung wished to do away with the offering of a sheep. Confucius said, Tse, you love the sheep, I love the ceremony. At first this is baffling, if not also humorous. Why not save the sheep? But Confucius is reminding Tse and us about the importance of ceremony. In the modern world, we tend to shun ceremony and see this as a good thing, a sign of intimacy or a lack of pretension. But Confucius believed in the value of ceremonies over sheep because he valued what he called ritual propriety. This might seem a very outdated and conservative idea, but in fact many of us long for particular rituals, that meal Mum cooked for us whenever we were sick, or the yearly birthday outing, or our wedding vows. We understand that certain premeditated, deliberate and precise gestures stir our emotions deeply. Rituals make our intentions clear, and they help us to understand how to behave. 2. We should treat our parents with reverence. In particular, Confucius had a very strict idea about how we should behave towards our parents. He believed that we should obey them when we're young, care for them when they're old, mourn at length when they die, and make huge sacrifices in their memory thereafter. He even said that we shouldn't travel far away while our parents are alive, and should cover for them if they steal a sheep. This attitude is known as filial piety. This sounds strange now, when many of us leave our parents' home as teenagers and rarely return to visit. We may even see them as strangers, arbitrarily thrust upon us by fate. After all, our parents are so out of touch, so pitifully human in their shortcomings, so difficult, so judgmental, and they have such bad taste in music. Yet Confucius recognized that in many ways moral life begins in the family. We cannot truly be caring, wise, grateful and conscientious unless we remember Mum's birthday and meet Dad for lunch. 3. We should be obedient to honourable people. Modern society is very egalitarian. We believe that we're all born equal and should ultimately be able to say and do whatever we like. We reject many rigid hierarchical roles. Yet Confucius told his followers, "Let the ruler be a ruler, the subject, a father, and a son, a son." This might sound jarring, but it is in fact important to realise that there are people worthy of our deep veneration, even our simple and humble obedience. We need to be modest enough to recognise the people whose experience or accomplishments outweigh our own. We should also practice peaceably doing what these people need, ask or command. Confucius explained, "The relation between superiors and inferiors is like that between the wind and the grass. The grass must bend when the wind blows across it." Bending gracefully is in fact not a sign of weakness, but a gesture of humility and respect. 4. Cultivated knowledge can be more important than creativity. Modern culture places a lot of emphasis on creativity, unique insights that come to us suddenly. But Confucius was adamant about the importance of the universal wisdom that comes from years of hard work and reflection. He listed benevolence, ritual propriety, righteousness, wisdom, integrity as the 5 constant virtues. While Confucius believed that people were inherently good, he also saw that virtues like these must be constantly cultivated, just like plants in a garden. He spoke about moral character and wisdom as the work of a lifetime. We can see now why he had such reverence for his elders. Of course, a burst of inspiration may well be what we need to start our business or redo our rough draft or reinvent our life. But if we're being very honest with ourselves, we'll have to admit that we also need to devote more energy to slowly changing our habits. This, more than anything else, is what prevents us from becoming truly intelligent, accomplished and wise. Confucius died without reforming the decadent duke and his officials, but after his death, his followers created schools and temples in his honour across East Asia, passing his teachings along for over 2,000 years. Today, millions of people still follow Confucius's teachings as a spiritual or religious discipline, and his thought has been a huge influence on Eastern political ideas about morality, obedience, and good leadership. We might find Confucian virtues a bit strange or old-fashioned, but this is what ultimately makes them all the more important. We need them as a corrective to our own excesses. The modern world is almost surprisingly totally un-Confucian, informal, egalitarian, and full of innovation. So we're conversely at risk of becoming impulsive, irreverent, and thoughtless, without a little advice from Confucius about good behaviour and sheep.
There's a certain peace in realizing we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to learn how to drive it. Up next, a little something to keep the soul steady.
You know, Jim Carrey once said something that haunts me a little. He talked about the price we pay when we don't choose ourselves. We think we're being safe by picking the practical path or the one that makes our parents smile. But there is a hidden tax on that safety. It's the tax of a life unlived. Let's listen to Jim break down what happens when you stop being your own first choice.
Now, fear is going to be a player in your life, but you get to decide how much. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying, I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it. My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. It's not the only thing he taught me, though. You know, I watched the effect of my father's love and humor and how it altered the world around me. And I thought, that's something to do. That's something worth my time. It wasn't long before I started acting up. People would come over to the house and they'd be greeted by a 7-year-old throwing himself down a large flight of stairs. They would say, "What happened?" And I would say, "I don't know. Let's check the replay." I'd go back to the top of the stairs and come back down in slow motion. It was a very strange household. And he treated my talent as if it was his second chance. When I was about 28, after a decade as a professional comedian, I realized one night in LA that the purpose of my life had always been to free people from concern, just like my dad. And when I realized this, I dubbed my new devotion the Church of Freedom from Concern. The Church of FFC. And I dedicated myself to that ministry. What's yours? How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. As someone who's done what you're about to go and do, I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Because everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what was in your heart. My choosing to free people from concern got me to the top of a mountain. Look where I am. Look what I get to do. Everywhere I go. I'm going to get emotional because when I tap into this, it really is extraordinary to me. I did something that made people present their best selves to me wherever I go. I am at the top of the mountain, and I was, and the only one I hadn't freed was myself. And that's when my search for identity deepened. I wondered who I'd be without my fame. Who would I be if I said things that people didn't want to hear? But you guys are so ahead of the game. You already know who you are. And that peace that we're after, lies somewhere beyond personality, beyond the perception of others, beyond invention and disguise, even beyond effort itself. You can join the game, fight the wars, play with form all you want, but to find real peace, you have to let the armor go. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world. Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory. Painting is one of the ways I free myself from concern, a way to stop the world through total mental, spiritual, and physical involvement. But even with that comes a feeling of divine dissatisfaction. Because ultimately, we're not the avatars we create. We're not the pictures on the film stock. We are the light that shines through. All else is just smoke and mirrors, distracting, but not truly compelling. I've often said that I wished people could realize all their dreams and wealth and fame, and so that they could see that it's not where you're going to find your sense of completion. Like many of you, I was concerned about going out into the world and doing something bigger than myself, until someone smarter than myself made me realize that there is nothing bigger than myself. My soul is not contained within the limits of my body. My body is contained within the limitlessness of my soul. One unified field of nothing, dancing for no particular reason, except maybe to comfort and entertain itself. As that shift happens in you, you won't be feeling the world, you'll be felt by it. You'll be embraced by it. Now I'm always at the beginning. I have a reset button, and I ride that button constantly. Once that button is functioning in your life, there's no story that the mind could create that will be as compelling. The imagination is always manufacturing scenarios, both good and bad, and the ego tries to keep you trapped in the multiplex of the mind. Our eyes are not viewers, they are also projectors that are running a second story over the picture that we see in front of us all the time. Fear is writing that script, and the working title is, I'll Never Be Enough. Now you're going to look at a person like me and say, how could we ever hope to reach those kind of heights, Jim? This is the voice of the ego. And if you listen to it, there will always be someone who's doing better than you. No matter what you gain, ego will not let you rest. It will tell you that you cannot stop until you've left an indelible mark on the earth, until you've achieved immortality. How tricky is this ego that it would tempt us with the promise of something we already possess? Relax and dream up a good life. As far as I can tell, it's just about letting the universe know what you want and working toward it while letting go of how it comes to pass. Your job is not to figure out how it's going to happen for you, but to open the door in your head. And when the door opens in real life, just walk through it. And when I say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, I really don't know if that's true. I'm just making a conscious choice to perceive challenges as something beneficial so that I can deal with them in the most productive way. You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun. Oh, and why not take a chance on faith as well? Not religion, but faith. Not hope, but faith. I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire and faith leaps over it. You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world. And after you walk through those doors today, you will only ever have two choices: love or fear. Choose love, and don't ever let fear turn you against your playful heart. Thank you so much.
That leads us to a heavy realization. How we treat ourselves is usually how we treat the world. We are so incredibly quick to judge. We see a snapshot of someone's worst day, and we think we've read their entire biography. But before you cast that next judgment on a stranger, a friend, or even yourself, I want you to hold on to this thought.
If you wrote a poem about your childhood, could we go and live there? A poem about lost balls, toy soldiers, and endless summers. If you're afraid of growing up, we can hide in a verse about morning cartoons and cereal. If you hate your job, we can play hide and never actually seek. When you feel lonely, you can relive your coziest snow day. Let's write a verse about how much we hate adults. And let's hope that time stops. Let's write about boys that know how to feel, and about girls that don't wear pink. Until the illusion of identity shatters like our dreams. This poem isn't about regrets, a wasted potential. This poem is our new home, with pillows from your sofa. With verses about hugs and your friends. Let's write a verse about the times you cried and how it choked you. Let's create stories about bravery and bruises, and how the bullies of the world will always be afraid to look you in the eyes. Let's live in a poem about old bikes, scraped knees, first kisses, and forgotten lullabies. Childhood was never about callousness and unlimited possibilities, just the ability to make kinder worlds. If you wrote a poem about a stranger's childhood, would you go and live there? You might write about friendless mornings or wasted potential, lines about unrequited love. Maybe you'll have to rhyme violence with innocence. Can you create metaphors about visible and invisible scars? The smell of alcohol and the echoes of screams. Be prepared to write verses about death or verses about rape. Your story might include first breaths in the war, or last breaths anywhere in the world. Bear in mind that you might write about the broken that became worse than the parents, or about the broken that never met their parents. We design societies about fairness and balance, but we seem to forget that our adulthood is affecting someone else's childhood. We walk this earth convinced this game will never be fair, even though we never tried to fix it. But between the horror and the tenderness, there are a few people that were dealt a bad hand and managed to change the narrative. The people that refused to become bitter when everyone expected them to. The brave souls that created something out of nothing. We are in this together, but each one of us is playing a very different game. Some people carry heavy shadows. Some people play against greater odds than you and win. These people, when they smile, the universe smiles with them. Before you judge someone, think about that.
It's a lot to process, isn't it? It's about realizing that everyone is carrying a suitcase full of things they don't talk about. Let's take a breath with some Nat King Cole. And right after that, we're going to hear from the legendary David Lynch on why we need to stop romanticizing pain.
You don't have to suffer to show suffering. You don't have to be filled with turmoil to show turmoil. Have it in the story. I don't know what goes on in artists' heads, but I think all the great artists loved working. A lot of people say, well, suffering is good for art. Look at Van Gogh, they say. And I say, let's take a look at Van Gogh. Van Gogh didn't go out painting because he hated it, or he was suffering. The only time he was happy probably was when he was painting. He painted because he loved to paint. And the rest of his life was pretty miserable. He didn't sell anything. He was broke. A lot of times he's probably really hungry. It's just common sense. Suffering reduces. It's the enemy. Negativity is the enemy of creativity. It's common sense. If someone is depressed, they say they don't even feel like getting out of bed, let alone working.
I love that perspective from Lynch. We've been sold this lie that you have to be miserable to be brilliant. We look at Van Gogh and think his genius came from his suffering. But as Lynch points out, the art is what happens when the artist finds a way to breathe despite the pain. We often get history backward. We think a crazy lifestyle creates the artist, but it's actually the other way around. The pursuit of the craft dictates the life. When we try to mimic the look of a successful person without the work of their mindset, it's just costume play. Authentic style is a byproduct of an authentic path.
Coming back from Sting's Fragile, which honestly feels like the perfect bridge for where we've been today. We've talked about ancient wisdom, the cost of self-betrayal, and the myths of creativity. It's a lot to weigh up. But there's one more piece I wanted to share with you. It's from the film The Life of David Gale. Kevin Spacey has this monologue about how we spend the vast majority of our lives on the way to somewhere else. We're always in the lobby, never quite in the room. The older I get, the more this feels like the most important thing to understand. Let's listen.
Fantasies have to be unrealistic because the second that you get what you seek, you can't want it anymore. In order to continue to exist, desire must have its objects perpetually absent. It's not the it that you want, it's the fantasy of it. So desire supports crazy fantasy. So the lesson of Lacan is living by your wants will never make you happy. What it means to be fully human is to strive to live by ideas and ideals, and not to measure your life by what you've attained in terms of your desires, but those small moments of integrity, compassion, rationality, even self-sacrifice. Because in the end, the only way that we can measure the significance of our own lives is by valuing the lives of others.
That was Sade with Kiss of Life. What a note to end on. As you head out into your May 7th, I want you to carry one thing with you. You aren't a project that needs fixing. You aren't a mistake waiting to be corrected. You are a series of moments, and most of them are happening right now while you're on the way to something else. Don't miss the journey because you're staring at the map. Take that energy, find a little hope, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.